guarantee and that I will faithfully and that I will faithfully impartially
Yeah.
I will get out of your way. We're good to go.
Thank you.
Welcome everyone, and we're going to call this meeting to order. The first item on the agenda, before we do the first item on the agenda, is the public input. I'm going to welcome our two members, Scott Pierce, right?
Yes.
Scott is our newest appointee from the town council, and Kristen Smith is our member that is the school board member, our school board member. For those of you that don't know how the park board works, the park board is nominated from the town council. It is a bipartisan council, meaning that there is 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and the school town of Munster serves as the 5th vote for that for the town. So, any questions from you guys on how that works? Or? Okay, perfect. We're going to get this going then, and we're going to start with public input. If there is anyone here from the public that has any items to discuss, you have 2 minutes, and the floor is open to you. I just ask that you step to the podium and give your name and address. All right.
We also didn't have any email. Nothing came from email.
No public comments through email or anything else. So we're going to move on to administrative matters. And that is the park board minutes from December 20th. Anyone have a chance to review?
I did.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second it.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Right along, we have the vouchers.
You guys get a copy?
Yes.
Yes.
The vouchers look good to me.
Vouchers are payroll, for those that don't know, vouchers are payroll and mostly payroll and then miscellaneous expenses.
You go ahead, I'll second you.
Okay, I move to approve the vouchers.
The moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Items for discussion, and the first item for discussion, annually, the park board nominates for president and vice president for the year. So at this time, I'll take a nomination for president, vice president.
I would like to nominate Robin Paulson for president and Dan Reedfay for vice president.
I'll second it.
All right, so we have a motion, and we're question that I answered myself. So all in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? Motion passes. With that, I'll thank everyone. I had a productive 2022 year. I'm going to turn this meeting over to Mrs. Wilson.
Okay, thank you. All right, so up next is the Parks and Recreation Department.
Rob, I'm sorry, Rob.
I have to make a motion. I was told that I should nominate Janice as the recording.
Oh, secretary.
Yes. Oh, that's very important.
In the past, we all used to share.
I'll
time.
second.
I apologize. That's a newer position. And James, we apologize that we left.
I'll
you out.
clean up the
All
mess.
right, all right.
Sorry.
I'll second.
Second.
Yep, second.
Rob, you run the
Oh,
meeting.
all
I'll
in
run the meeting.
favor? Yeah.
Aye.
You're running the meeting.
Thank you.
All right. Now, the Parks and Rec Department year in review.
Yes, I'm going to hand you a hard copy of this in case you don't, it's easier to look at from that perspective. All right.
Look at it.
I'll save that.
Save it for the students who want it for the report.
So Just kind of go through and highlight, this is something that we put together as a year in review / annual report. It's not as number driven as traditional annual reports, so that's why that part of it is second in that title. Obviously, we have our 2022, our park board and department full-time staff that we had the end of 2 terms that you're aware of. Dave serving after 32 years and Ron Stojic after 8 years on the park board, so we thank them for their dedication and service. Within the department is our full-time staff. Out of our 12 full-timers, we only had 1 change in 2022, and that's bringing on Mara Ricardo as our new full-time recreation supervisor this past May. We employed 111 part-time employees in 2022. Those included lifeguards, park maintenance, recreation program leaders, referees, camp aides, social center attendants, and similar types of positions. So we did have a rash of bad luck on our maintenance side of the department this last year with a few on-the-job injuries, some funeral leave situations, and some COVID positive occurrences, unfortunately. So, but the lost time added up to being down about 20% of our maintenance staff over the whole year. So you can see that it does add up. But what I'm proud to announce, though, or report, is that the crew did a great job of stepping up, along with a lot of part-time, dedicated part-time seasonal employees to maintain the park system without really much notice from the general public about that reduced staff level. So that was a good positive for us. As far as board accomplishments, moving on to page 3, I'm just going to highlight some of these things. Obviously, there's a lot more in there that I'm mentioning here. So we directed the purchase of various equipment for the department's vehicle and equipment replacement schedule. We approved an amendment for the Centennial Park Golf Management agreement due to the closure of the banquet facility in 2021, which reduced the base management fee that the town pays. We approved the pay to park solution out at Centennial Park and started that last year, running that from April through October on an annual basis. We approved engaging with CSK Architects to provide the architectural and engineering professional services for Phase 1 Golf Pro Shop and golf cart storage facilities. We approved the salary and wage schedule for part-time seasonal employees to remain competitive in the local market. Adopted several separate policies for advertising and activity participant code of conduct. Met in a timely fashion throughout the year to approve fees and vouchers. To develop and approve facility use agreements for the use of Centennial Park stage and outdoor wedding venues. And honored outgoing park board member Dave Servin and his 32 years by naming the first hole on the golf course in his honor. So that was kind of neat. From a financial standpoint, again, this is the extent of some numbers here from our side of it. Last year, we used the Parks and Recreation Fund through the town as our main budget for day-to-day operations. However, last year we had access to American Recovery Plan Act funds, which helped made up for lost revenue during the COVID years. And so our budget last year was just under $3 million, and we had expenses of 2.675. So 89% of our budget was expended. The clerk's office will always tell you that's a good thing because that balance then goes to work as cash on hand for the following year. So, and then our 770 fund, which was this past year, was retitled to a 2370 fund because of accounting software issues. It's a non-reverting fund, and that's where a lot of our donations and sponsorships and things like that come in and are based from. It's a that non-reverting fund had revenues of 116,000 plus and had expenses of about 113,000 plus. So typically it's a money in, money out fund, and it worked that way again for us this past year. Moving on to page 4, our Parks and Rec facilities. The park uses continued heavily in 2022 as people look to be outside for recreational pursuits. We landscaped an area around the White Oak Park sign in cooperation with the Munster Garden Club. The cricket pitch at Westlake Park was finally completed after some delays. The ribbon cutting will be done this coming spring. Repaved the Stewart Park parking lot. Completed the replacement of the remote irrigation control units out at the Centennial Park Golf Course. We had improvements at the community park pool, which were 5 20-foot, the big front umbrella shades. We had 6 lifeguard stand umbrellas replaced and the purchase of 1 new lifeguard stand. We also replaced windows at the concession stand and the admissions booth at the pool. A new concrete drainage trough was installed at the Parks Maintenance Garage. IDEM's inspection was happy to see that when they came through and inspected town facilities here recently. And 2 regional bike route kiosk maps were installed in parts to a grant from NERC, one over at the Monon Trailhead and one out at Centennial Park. A colored stamped concrete approach was installed in front of the Heritage Park gazebo to provide solid footing in that area right in front of the facility as you lead up to the gazebo. And a number of new vehicles and equipment was replaced based upon our replacement schedule. As far as moving on to page 5 and our rental facilities, we had 302 rentals altogether last year, 130 of them at Community Park Social Center, 105 between all of our park shelters added up. The Munster Pool had 18 private rentals and 21 pool birthday party rentals, which those occur during our regular operating hours. The pool had 17,150 guests or visits in 2022. Seasonal pool staff rates were increased last year to be competitive and help staff the pool. 2 largest challenges in operating the pool continue to be not wearing proper swim attire and behavioral issues. There were 104 saves or rescues last year that lifeguards had to perform. That was a decrease. The year before was 157. And for the pool specifically, our revenues out there, we brought in just over 254,000 and expended a little over 226,000. So that was a good thing for us. Out at Centennial Park from Centennial Park Golf Management, they'll be here next month to give you a little bit more detailed report on the facilities and operations out there. But overall, it was a declining year for us, unfortunately. The closure of the clubhouse, I think, was something that kind of rumor mill was out there and I think hurt us and kept some golfers away. But our golf rounds decreased to 13,783, which is a negative, a drop of 27%. Greens fees dollars brought in $187,521, which is a 8.4% drop from the year before. Cart fees would drop about 4.5%, as well as the range revenue from the driving range on the golf course. Pro shop revenue dropped significantly, which was kind of expected with the closure of the facility and the limited access to the pro shop. It dropped by 45%. And of course, with the closure of the banquet facilities, the food and beverage revenue dropped substantially, going down 84%. The recreation programs and activities on page 6. These are, we feel that most activities have returned to pre-pandemic expectation levels. There is still some hesitancy out there from some participants due to the ongoing threat. Outdoor activities and events were very well attended, and the Holiday Arts and Crafts Show returned after a 3-year hiatus back into the school facility this past December. The summer camp was held at Frank Hammond School. We maxed that out at 85 campers a week. Youth Soccer League had a successful return with 864 players, 150 coaches, 20 referees for the 64 teams across the 4-H divisions over the spring and fall seasons. Kind-sized camps ran with 121 children. Teenagers were up over 200 participants this year, which is good numbers there. Dog park memberships stayed pretty steady at 272 members. Some new classes we had this year: Cuban salsa dance, line dancing, succulent 101, Ackerman garden tour, and cardio drumming, just to name a few. And then moving into our special events side of activities, our daughter date night returned to Wilbur Wright Middle School with 150 participants. The People's Bank continued to sponsor the free summer concert series at Munster Town Hall and had a combined just over 2,000 people in attendance at those 6 concerts. The Munster Civic Foundation donated funds to host a new Civic Monday concert series of 6 concerts out at Centennial Park, along with a free concert from the Northwest Indiana Symphony. A new event last year was the Colors of the World Culture Fest, which was held on a very rainy day, but still successful, with 20 different ethnic groups participating. Walk in the Woods was held at Heritage Park with more than 1,000 guests walking the woods. Over 150 families and businesses helped to carve pumpkins, and also had 20 volunteers help with that event, which was nice to see all of the various volunteers who come together. Trunk or Treat combined with the Beaker Woods and had over 3,500 guests. The Holiday Arts and Crafts Show came back in after a 3-year hiatus with 120 vendors, which isn't full capacity, but is still a great turnout considering the hiatus that we had. Car show had another great year with 226 vehicles and over 2,000 people in attendance. Pumpkin witches and hay rides also continues to surpass expectations with over 2,000 in attendance at that event. Region Eats had a turnout of more than 2,500 people. That was the first year we held that with different food vendors and also included entertainment. And then our Winterfest was held at Town Hall the week after Light the Night with another 200 plus visitors to that event as well. Finally, moving on to page 8, our last page, our department, social media and marketing. A lot of things stay the same. We continue to use our free recreation guides and use of the monthly utility bill newsletter as traditional ways of advertising. The more current ways of advertising are the social media pages. We have an Instagram page that's up 17% with our followers. The Facebook increased also by 17% in 2022. So we're glad to see those numbers continuing to climb. The registration software that we use in our office, we continue to take an email contact list with that. Those emails were increased by 28% this year. In 2022, our marketing efforts really kind of came together and we brought in $60,600 from various programs and event sponsors. The Munster Civic Foundation expended $26,000 more on top of that figure for the Civic Mondays and the Symphony events. And then additional other advertising opportunities brought in just over another $32,000. So that's something that we're proud of and try to continue to do. So we're not reliant upon strictly property tax to operate the department. Goals for 2023, the following, these are kind of a framework of goals. We want to repave the community park pool parking lot, complete the 2022 bond issue projects, replace the hydrochloric and acid system at the pool, the PA system at the pool as well, and expand the concessions patio into the old sand play area, also at the pool. The Centennial Park stage sound system, looking to upgrade that this year. Make a decision on the landfill generator to rebuild or replace. There's an opportunity that we're looking into with an Inflation Reduction Act grant that hopefully will allow us to cover substantial cost of that through a particular grant if that comes to fruition for us. Coordinate plans, and we're beginning construction of the new pro shop building and cart storage facility for the golf course. Determine the fate of the current Centennial Park Clubhouse. Update our network communications to Community Park by adding new fiber optics line to that facility. And I guess that's a summary, just to name a few of our projects there. I do ask for you to approve this as our year review and annual reports because it meets some requirements that we have statutorily, and it'd be something I would share then with the town council as that report and also post on the town website. Thank you.
Mark, just one quick question.
Yes.
On the goals for 2023, I don't see anything about typically at the beginning of the year, we see the repair and replacement for the parks. I assume exactly you're gonna have that.
There's, yeah, I can share that with you. There are a number of vehicles and equipment that's in that 22 bond. I can share that.
Right, but not the vehicles, the park equipment replacement, playground, that.
Yeah, there's nothing that's in this year's current bond. I will say, actually, one of the other projects I glanced over was continuing to make park improvements from prior bond balances. That is one. Centennial Parks Playground is our big ticket one, hopefully this fall. I'm working to try to get those proposals together. And if that will be the major one improvement equipment wise this coming.
Because I heard Centennial and Community both were on, did we talk about this last year?
I know Centennial was,
As far as the playground,
yeah,
Yeah,
Well,
it needs a lot of new-
repair,
yeah.
replacement schedule.
Well, the playground is coming up the edges, is that here?
Oh, just the repairs of the
Yeah,
surface.
the repairs and replacements on the playgrounds is what I'm
Did you
talking
repair
about.
that, right? The rubber, the board in place? at community?
There's a schedule, Janice, you know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
there's a schedule for.
It's starting to separate from the curb, it shrinks.
Yeah.
All right, well, Janice, if you could provide the last one, maybe we could just update.
Certainly.
That'd be great. Fantastic. Other than that, I will make a motion to approve that.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? Next is professional service agreement with CSK Architects.
Yes, In your packet, you have a proposal from CSK Architects, and Tom Kuhn, the principal for that, is here with us today. Just the background on this, collectively as a board, you did approve previously to engage with CSK. Since that time, we've done some soil borings recently out there, and which created a geotechnical report. And the proposal today includes an updated professional services proposal from CSK Architects, taking account that new information into account for their proposal. So we are, their base fee for covering this is not to exceed $235,000, but they're also recommending an allowance of $30,000 to cover the cost of a civil engineering firm for that portion of the work, but that would be run through them. So ultimately, our agreement, our contract with them would be for $265,000 as a not to exceed figure for that work out there. And I would also ask that any motion that you do make, allow or authorize the director to sign that contract pending review by the park board attorney and administrative staff.
So for clarity, this is the building on the hill up there by,
These are the three buildings that would be up at the top of the hill. So this would be the pro shop, the golf storage building, and the open air shelter. I've shared that.
I was just gonna say, did you share that for clarity? So they know what they're voting on?
How did the geotechnical come out? Do you have the final report for that?
We are going to have to go down to bedrock, Tom.
80 feet.
80 feet we have to go down, and that'll also require
Islands.
the pilings on top of that.
Yeah,
And the,
most of the buildings out there, like the hotel, are islands as well.
I'll make a motion to approve this professional service proposal, allow the director to sign when it's complete already, which you also have that allocation in there, or do you need that allocation when they have it? Or is that,
at a
that's
cost
part of the 265, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so to a cost not to exceed 265,000 for architectural engineering professional services.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Anyone against? Unanimous. Okay, next up is Centennial Park improvements, next steps and recommendations.
Yes, I put this together for you just for kind of having before thinking a little bit here, forward thinking with a couple new park board members. And now that number one on this memo is already kind of, you just completed that. So formal approval of the proposal for CSK Architects and the contract for the golf course buildings there. So the existing bond issue funding is there to cover those costs. At that point, we still have to decide where funding for anything next would come from, even awarding of anything that we do bid out right now after it gets designed. So I'm recommending the creation of a Centennial Park Capital Improvement Subcommittee, kind of like what we did for Pay to Park Solution. The purpose of this group would be to formulate a recommendation to the council and park board about about a funding mechanism or mechanisms for the construction of the new golf buildings. This needs to be in place before any awarding of construction would happen, which hopefully is this spring here. Possible funding mechanisms, I've mentioned settlement funds, future bonds, future park bond, future GO bonds, future building corporation bonds, or other suggestions from the treasurer's office. We also would want this group to formulate a recommendation about the existing clubhouse and other future buildings out at the park or other capital improvements at the park. I think soon we're going to be looking at repaving a lot, parking lots, pathways, there are going to be substantial costs in there. So if we're going to do separate funding, it might be something that these things all get jumbled in together and considered. And then recommend the funding mechanism for those capital improvements at the park. So my suggestion would be that as a park board, we come about with a subcommittee of 2 park board members, 2 council members, the clerk's office, the clerk controller in the clerk's office, deputy town manager, the director, and superintendent of parks operations as that committee. And if you agree, I'd ask you to recommend who on this board would be those 2 people appointed to the subcommittee. And then additionally, I would either recommend we either You either direct me to send this via letter form to the council or ask Ken to take it on our behalf as the liaison to the council for them to appoint their two members to such group. Not to say this is the way we have to do it, but I was trying to think of a way that we could progress, and I think a collective group between both full boards will be real slow in progressing and getting to a next steps.
I think that this subcommittee would be real slow as well. I would probably recommend a work study, and then this is the part, this is what we're supposed to be doing. So what I would recommend is a work study to, to work out the logistics of it, and then it's the park board's responsibility.
It is until it comes to, depending on which funding mechanism
True.
comes into play. The other part of this is the litigation monies that the town receives are not in your control.
Yeah.
And that's probably the first option to cover this initial budgeted roughly $4 million of costs for this first phase. So that's, I think when we last met jointly with the park board and council together, the agreement was, yes, move forward good on what we're gonna call phase one, being the buildings at the top of the hill. Let's reconvene with something as we.
Can I ask Mr. Schoon, what's the council's recommendation on how they want to handle that? Do they prefer us to do a subcommittee, work study, what would they?
Things like that have only been talked about informally. But the idea of having a committee, I wouldn't call it a subcommittee because it's not something else. But a committee to study that and come up with a recommendation, I think is a good idea so that we know how the money would be spent and.
Old habits are hard to break.
I agree with what Mark suggested. And I think the rest of the council will go along with that.
I don't have a problem with it personally, Mike, because it's gonna be difficult to get everyone's schedule to align with, if we even include all these people. And I think whoever's the park board person's representatives would come back to the board, I think, to give their thoughts on it. I mean, I just think it's more difficult to have this, too many people involved in it. Not to say we're trying to exclude anyone, but to
That's a lot of people.
put 5 people scheduled together from this board and 5, how many people, how many council?
5.
5 on the council. It could become logistically, not to say there's any guaranteed approvals going on, but at least we'd have the will, once we understand the newer people. Understand what their feelings are, because it could be changed from what Dave or Ron had, and that's fine. Because I just tell you, just so you guys know, there was a big, what to do with the pro shop. And if you're a golfer, if you know golfers, you know, where the pro shop should be located was a big deal and how fast to go forward. And you saw in the financials, the impacts that had on us because people didn't want to go into it. They felt the building maybe was unsafe and they don't want to get their parking validated and have to go down there. So
Once we've
logistically,
explained that, I think everybody's on the same page.
I think right now it's going to be pro shop. We got where the pro shop needs to be. The second thing is, do you build another,
What do we do next?
what do you build another, what is that,
Banquet?
facility, or do you just say,
Or
we're
something
good?
else?
I'm not opposed to this. I just feel like there's a lot of people. Yeah.
Most of those are staff. I mean, it really comes down to, you know, the elected officials. And obviously, if we get the whole, you know, body, I would envision having this group discussions and those conversations and coming with some types of recommendations back out to the proper board as needed. If it's related to the suggestions as far as what we do out there, that's going to be coming here.
Right.
Mainly financially, where it may go there is like, let's say they decide, or collectively, the decision is made to use a building corporation to fund all the improvements. That's gonna be a council.
Right,
involved.
we gotta, this is gotta
makes
go to the money anyway, which makes sense. Yeah.
So unfortunately, I agree with you, Mike. We, you know, the authority should be here, but yet because of the funding, it's kind of like our regular day-to-day operations, right?
But-
I mean, our budget gets approved by them, even though you guys are my bosses.
Right.
Of our departments.
I just don't want us to lose sight of the fact that the primary part of the work should be here in the
Yes.
park.
You're the advocates. Right.
I'd make a motion to approve making us a committee consisting of the folks that are outlined under section 3 send it via Ken or the letter to the council to see how they would like to, or Councilman School, sorry, to see how they would like to go forward.
As far as members, I would just, in the spirit of our board, I would just recommend, bipartisan, same thing,
It doesn't matter. If you need someone, I'll volunteer. If someone really feels compelled or lives closer to community versus Centennial Park.
Yeah, I know who you're saying.
I'm not saying, I'm just saying. But I would volunteer. If someone doesn't want to,
I'll
or
do
they feel as though that they're
I'll do it.
busy, I get it. I mean, we all have different things outside of.
I'll do it.
Mike and
And then what do you two?
I'll do it.
I would imagine, just so you guys are aware, I would
Like it's
imagine
not.
these meetings will probably be during business hours. Because the majority of the staff is.
Would that be
full-time
problematic?
Staff, so I don't know,
it could be during the daytime.
Thursday's bad, but other days, my boss,
just so you're aware.
Okay.
I get back and forth.
They try to keep it to an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. You get extra per diem.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm that's for you.
No, you don't.
You haven't seen the pretty.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
You get a bottle
He's lying
of
to
water.
So Dan, are you amending your motion to appoint
Sure,
Mike and?
and I'll make sure that's clear for the record. And send my regards to whoever it's going to.
I don't know.
You gotta have fun. I think Mike seconded it.
Oh, did, okay.
Second, sure.
I heard it.
All in favor? Anyone against? Okay. Next one is the social center electrical upgrades.
The department hosts a lot of activities. That's our only indoor facility right now, with the social center and at Community Park. We ran into an issue last year where the power was out and we were really panicking. Fortunately, it came back on before the rental of that later that evening. And ever since then, we've been wondering how are we gonna do something to improve upon it. So we've had some internal discussions and as we started talking about that and the age of the facility itself was brought up and we realized there was a lot of other things that need to get updated. Some of it is frequent when someone has a crock pot or too many crock pots or things are tripping and occurrences like that. And before you know it, you're eating cold food and no one likes that. So what we've done is gone through a process. We put it out there to get some quotes. It doesn't meet the threshold of bid. And we came back with 3 different quotes from 3 different local electricians to do some electrical work. We're basically replacing all the electrical wiring and panels at the social center, and also will include running electric to where later this, maybe as soon as next month, we'll be bringing a proposal for a replacement garage old warming shelter, which is just south of there. Electric to that building was fed from this building, so it made sense to kind of include that as well. And this also includes a backup generator at that facility. So we would be able to run the facility and have events there, especially taking into account all the people and their caterer and the decorations and everything else, and have to say to someone, sorry, we're out of power. So we feel that with the amount of rentals that we talked about earlier in tonight's meeting, we feel that this is a good investment for us as a department. We did include a budget last year in the bond issue of $40,000 for this. It's slightly over that. We can make up the balance of that difference from previous park bond issue balances. So together, bring this to you with a recommendation to award the upgrades to the social center to Midwestern Electric at a cost of $42,750.
Any thoughts?
Great idea.
It needs to be done. Absolutely. Yes.
So I guess I'll make the motion to approve.
Since you're on a roll.
I mean, I was waiting for someone else to go ahead and jump right in, but we'll make the award for the Community Park Social Center electro upgrades to Midwestern Electric for the total cost of $42,750. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? Next
Motion to adjourn.
Hey, somebody.
All in favor?
All day long.
You guys want to sit here?
All in favor?
Any?
Going to approve.
I did.
I think that.
I'm trying to shut up. You know, like when you're president, like.
All right,
just
who needs
keep
pictures?
talking, you talk, you talk,
That's taken.
and then like first.
I gotta pack up this.
Stop talking.